Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the February 18th, 2016 Post Falls Urban Renewal Agency meeting. I'd like to welcome all of you here, and I'd like to ask Director Lane call the order.
Yes, Chairman Baltzell.
Here.
Carstensen.
Here.
Crosby.
Here.
Please note that Commissioner Reimbursements has an excused absence. Coles.
Here.
Malzahn.
Here.
And Davis.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Colin, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, ceremonies, appointments, and announcements. We do have one item under this category, and that is just for the record to tell you who our committee chairs and members are for this coming year for our standing committees. On Finance and Policy Committee, Len Crosby is the chair, supported by Paula Rearman and Tom Malzahn as members and Colin Coles as an alternate. The District Review Committee is chaired by Colin Coles. Members would be Jamie Davis and Larry Carstensen, and myself will be an alternate to that committee. Communication, Property, and Personnel Committee, Larry Carstensen is the chair, and the members are Paula Rearman, Tom Malzahn, and Jamie Davis is the alternate. As special committee projects come up, we will appoint those committees for short-term ones, which we do have one right now on the Public Policy Committee that is chaired by Len Crosby, and that will be continuing on through the legislative session this year. Okay, any conflicts to disclose from any of the members on anything, any items that are on the agenda at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Director Lean.
Yes, Chairman Baltzell. On the consent calendar, item A is the Commission meeting minutes from January 21st. Item B is the Commission workshop minutes from February 10th. And both of these sets of minutes have been reviewed. Item C is payables for the month, totaling $1,293,465.21. Significant payables are the semi-annual loan payments for Washington Trust Bank for $1.1 million and Community First Bank for $158,866.46. Item D in your packet is the bank activity report, and that shows total funds in all accounts of $5,057,102.01. We also have accrued interest for the month of $759.64. I would note, just for information, on the balance sheet and liabilities, we show current and long-term liabilities for Washington Trust Bank. The total amount of the loan for Washington Trust is $8,211,322.29. The total amount of the loan at Community First on the Spokane Street project, that total currently is $794,743.39. And those are the two loans balances that we are making those semi-annual payments on. On the profit and loss statement on that next page, it shows total income of for the month of $2,124,260.23. You might think that it was a good month, but that also comprises the first half payments, the normal first half payments of real estate taxes by the community, and that is the amount that we receive from the county. A large item in expenses was $1,106,127.20. That was Proponent district payments, and the majority of that was a single item of about $911,000, and that was the payment for T. La Riviere Construction over on the Spencer Street project. So that's why we have a really large amount in expenses for the month. That, financial reports. Item F on the consent calendar is Washington Trust Bank Loan Purchase Agreement Amendment. Now, we've been working with bond counsel and the bank on, just for explanation, we've been working with them on reducing our loan reserve amount from $1.3 million to $1 million, and then using the $300,000 to apply to the loan principal reduction. As late as yesterday afternoon, I had discussions with the bank and bond counsel, so this is all fairly new. We don't have any hard issues, but we still have some questions on the document language that we need to resolve. And for that reason, I would be working with the bank and bond counsel and bring item F back to commission at our next meeting and recommend approving everything on the consent calendar except item F. Your approval of the consent calendar with that caveat will authorize the transfer of $759.64 accrued interest to the general fund and transfer to the INB checking account of $1,293,465.21 for general payables. And Chairman Baltzell, I would answer any questions.
Okay, I do have one quick question, and that is, for clarity, you are indicating that the delay with the agreement is simply verbiage corrections or changes that need to be made, and is not a matter of whether they will or will not comply with our request.
That is correct. And the bond counsel had to contact the separate attorney, a tax counsel, for some of the input on this. And It's just, like you indicated very appropriately, it is just a language thing in the document. Okay. It's not an issue whether the bank wants to do this or we want to.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item F.
I move we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item F to be acted upon next month.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote on that,
You know,
please.
roll call vote, excuse me. Okay.
Chairman Baltzell,
Aye.
Carstensen,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
Malzahn,
Aye.
and Davis.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Okay, committee updates, finance and policy. Commissioner Crosby, do you have anything new to add?
Yes.
Okay.
Committee reviewed the January financial reports and the statements and compared the two. And we have provided staff with 2 comments with regard to those materials. Also, with regard to the Public Policy Committee, you'll recall Jamie and I worked together with the city and Mayor Jacobson to do a joint letter to the interim committee with regard to an issue. The interim committee met on February 10th to review a draft of the bill that they're proposing to bring that would impact urban renewal activities. Apparently there was not consistent agreement on that, so they scheduled another meeting for this afternoon at 4:30 in Boise, and there is no bill yet.
Okay, very good. Did you get any feedback on the letter that was sent from us and the city?
I did not, no, from the committee members.
Okay, and Shelley says no on the city either. Okay, thank you very much, and you'll keep us informed as those meetings go on.
Yes.
Thank you. District review, Commissioner Coles.
Well, we have our final economic impact assessment, and where I think we probably need to go now is for the committee to sit down and meet, just look through the economic impact assessment and maybe review our existing plans and obligations. And then I would suggest we sit down with Bill Melvin to see if there are any critical infrastructure areas that we can address within each district that might be appropriate. We got about 6 years left for the bulk of our districts, and so, you know, it seems like a lot of time, but time runs out pretty quick.
Fast, yeah, for sure. And we'll be receiving the final report from Ms. Metz here shortly, at Metz Group anyway.
Chairman, a question for Commissioner Coles and Director Lean. We now, with the January and February tax increment in Expo, have accumulated $466,000 of tax increment in that district. Have we got any clarity from the proponent as to what his future plans for that development are?
Yes, sir. Very good question. Commissioner Crosby, Chairman Baltzell, he has indicated that they are in process of doing some planning now for construction, additional construction of roads in the district. And these are roads that have been part of the plan. Expo Parkway, Creative Way. I believe they were going to start with an extension of Creative Way as the next step. That's a fairly short, that would be fairly short, fairly quick project. But they do have ongoing plans in process to do some additional construction out there.
Okay, and has there been any further dialogue between the proponent and the city with regard to removing portions of the district for residential development, or rezoning portions of the district for residential development?
Not that I'm aware of. Nothing new.
I've heard nothing either. Shelley, anything you'd like to address on that subject at this time? Sorry to put you on the spot here.
It's my understanding that Gary Burton has been in contact with community development about updating the comp plan, so they can come back once that's changed and ask for the rezoning. So I think they're in the beginning processes of coming back to once again request residential out in that area that they requested before and was denied by council.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, anything else on that area? Communications, Property, and Personnel, Mr. Carstensen.
Nothing too exciting other than did we get any update from the chamber on the problems at the office with water leakage?
Director Lean.
Yes.
Ah,
That was in my staff report.
oh, I'm sorry.
But I can comment now if you wish.
Sure.
We've been working with Pam Hauser at the Chamber and a contractor scheduling work in Diane's office to repair the leak in the wall around the window. This work should be completed in the next week or so when Diane is out on vacation. She will be absent for the period between February 19th and February 29th. She'll be out sunning in the desert, I believe in somewhere in Arizona. She's got some coyote friends down there or something. I don't know. But she will be out, while she's out on vacation. This contractor stopped by the office yesterday to visit with me, and at first they didn't think he would be able to schedule to get in when she was gone, and as of late yesterday they said that they will be able to do that.
Good.
So the timing on that will be really good.
Very good.
And they plan to reflash the windows and do the corrective measures that,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
And they're going to go down and look at the work that was done on the south end of the building where they did the similar job there and do Diane's. We will have to take the desk apart again and move that.
Why are you looking at her? You mean her to take the
She's
desk
not going to
apart?
be here. She won't. She won't know. We'll have to take her desk apart and move it out of the way because they have to paint that entire wall, not just around the window, but
Sure.
the entire wall after they do the repairs. And in order to do that, we also have to disconnect and move the copy fax machine away. So I'm not going to have our IT guy come in. I don't want to spend the money to have him come in and reconnect that to the network now, do this work, and then have him come in so we don't have to do it twice.
Makes sense.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. All right. Very good. And now it's opportunity for citizen comments. Section of the agenda reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission regarding an agency-related issue. Comments related to future public hearings should be held for that public hearing, and persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Anything you want to comment on? It looks like we're good to go beyond that. Thank you. Unfinished business. First, Greensferry Overpass.
Yes, Chairman. On the Greensferry Overpass status, with items included in the approved payables this morning, the total expenses on the project for the month were less than $100,000. That's a low point because of the lack of activity at this time. The general contractor has been contacted regarding placing lane striping in the Greensferry-Celtice intersection as soon as possible. I went out yesterday morning with Diane, took a number of pictures in that intersection area, put together a fairly detailed summary and sent that to the contractor. They will be contacting the striping subcontractor early next week to provide for this. They have done some of the street on the surface, some of the paint and turn arrows, but they did not, because of the weather turning and then the snow, they could not do the paint on the lines, identifying the lanes on the road, and that has been creating a number of issues. We've had a number of contacts with police department, city engineering. That was passed on to me very strongly at city council Tuesday night. So we did follow up, and they will be working on that over the next few days. Next week, hopefully they will get the lanes striped and in place.
I think that's really critically important. There was an accident about a week ago, I think. One vehicle ended up on its top or its side or something like that right there at Celtice and Greensferry. And there have been a lot of near misses, or near hits, if you want to call it that. And I never thought about it personally because I've used it a lot, but I knew what it was. But if you were just looking, and I went down and just looked at the signage and the striping and so on, it is very confusing. If you don't know what it's supposed to be looking at that, it would be very confusing, and so we need to make sure that gets taken care of. I'm kind of surprised that the city didn't work with a contractor to make sure that the signage was what they needed to have on there, on Greensferry and on Celtice, but hopefully it'll get fixed quickly before somebody gets hurt.
I agree with that.
Question, will they be addressing the lanes coming west on Celtice as you get to the overpass? Because there's one lane on the right where I've seen a number of people who are in the next lane over assume that that's to turn the very sharp turn into the businesses, and they've then turned in front of the person who's trying to get back on the overpass from that far right lane. So there needs to be some clarity there. That to me looks like a serious issue.
That is an issue, and that's one of the points that I brought up in the email yesterday in my summary. I went into the plan set. We've got the large plan sheets for the entire project, including the street, the road signage and the street painting on the lines. And there's a specific point that addresses that issue. And I pointed it out in my email to them and in one of the pictures I took. So I would anticipate that they do that. So in that right-hand lane, there is supposed to be a white dotted, a dashed turn line in that radius going around so that you can see visually this lane needs to stay there, and this, the other two lanes can turn right into the uphill ramp lanes. It is an issue. There's a number of them out there. I had one other thing.
And it's true on all four directions. From the post office, the east, west, north, the whole thing needs to be looked at and fairly quickly. And if it can't be done immediately to fix it, if there's something that the city engineers or street folks or the police department or something can do to put cautionary cones or something there before it gets to be a problem. Because I think those two left turn lanes, used to be left turn lanes coming from the post office onto Celtice. I don't think it's both of them anymore. I think it's just one. But there's nothing to tell you that.
That's correct, and that is part of the problem.
So I just hope that there's something can be done maybe in the interim while we're waiting for them to take action, to be able to do some type of safety notifications on the roadways in some way, whether it's through cones or what. I'd like to see somebody with that kind of vision and understanding of that to take some action on it before we have it finished. I don't know.
Chairman, in talking to Bill Melvin Tuesday night, that was part of our conversation. He said this is, you know, the project is the contract with the general contractor, Wadsworth, is between the agency and the contractor. The city is not part of that contract. Therefore, they do not have authority to go to the contractor or do work themselves. It's our responsibility, and that's why I took the time yesterday to do the pictures and the write-up and send that information, and got a fairly quick response back from Brandon Squire, who promised that they would be out there. He would be in contact today with the striping subcontractor, and they would be out next week to address the issue. But that's something that we need to take care of.
Well, I don't disagree with whose, I guess, responsibility it is, but I would bet that the city would be very interested to have it fixed quickly, or at least mediated to some degree, because I can assure you that if there was a serious problem there, the city would be one of the ones involved in any kind of action that was taken against us or the contractor. So I'm sure they're just as interested as we are, and I guess what I'm suggesting is that even if it was Chief Haug or somebody on the police department staff that is knowledgeable on traffic control and that kind of thing, that could look at that maybe with city engineers and say, what right now today can we do until we can get the rest of it done to make it better and safer? I guess that's all I'm saying. So,
I can have the conversation with him.
and if not, I mean,
Start.
just need to do the best we can to make sure we make it safe as we can.
One of the issues is, and Diane was aware of this, I think. You may not have been out there, Diane, but yesterday when I was out there taking pictures, the light on Celtice, east and west on Celtice, turned red. And as I'm taking a picture of the intersection and the lack of striping there, I heard a vehicle behind me accelerate, and as I glanced over my shoulder, somebody in a red pickup, an older model pickup, went through the intersection. He accelerated to go through the intersection, beat the traffic. He blew a totally red light. And so it's not just the striping. People that are out there driving need to pay attention. They need to follow the rules of the road. If you see a red light, you need to stop. You don't need to speed up and speed through it. It was totally a red light that he sped up so you could go through it. This is part of the problem.
Unfortunately, that is, and fortunately, the woman and the two children that were in the vehicle that was hit a week ago, or roughly a week ago, I don't think they were seriously injured, but they could have been if somebody did the same thing. I think blew the light, and anyway, we just need to do the best we can on our part to try to make it as safe as possible while we're waiting for these changes to be made. So I didn't mean to belabor it, but I think it's an issue we need to pay attention to.
It's good public comment, though. They need to know that we're addressing the issue on the striping, and that part of the issue is not paying attention to the speed and rules of the road. It's a two-edged sword.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
We could get you a whistle and a reflective vest.
I have the vest. I can, if you can get me a whistle, I will do that.
Okay.
Flashlight. Basic training, flashlight. Okay.
Road guard.
Road guard.
Done that.
Now it's time to move into the METS Phase 2 Economic Impact Assessment Report Review. Olivia, are you ready to bring it to us?
Hello,
Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners.
Can you state your name and where you're from?
Okay, I'm Olivia Metz with the Metz Group, and I wanted to begin by saying I just thought it was worth noting how organized and detailed this organization is. I was really thoroughly impressed with all of the details that I had obtained from Tom and Diane, as well as others, and I'm a stickler for details and facts, so I usually go to the source and usually find holes, and I didn't find any holes the whole time, so it was pretty impeccable. So I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was worth noting, although it's not an audit. I thought it was worth noting. Since 2007, there were 216 jobs added in Centerpoint, 111 jobs in West Celtice 2, and 497 jobs in East Post Falls. Not all of those 824 jobs were directly added because of being in a district, but a portion of them were. As of 2015, there are just over 2,000 jobs in all of the 3 districts, and an additional 664 jobs were created in other sectors because of those jobs, for a net cumulative earnings of $88.6 million annually that are distributed among households across the region. The total annual estimate cumulative gross benefit to the community in Center Point is $111 million. In West Celtice 2 is $5.1, and in East Post Falls is $223.9 million. And that is the annual average tax revenue plus the earnings and sales accumulated from the jobs in those districts. As far as performance, the least performing of the districts was West Celtice 2 as a share of the reimbursements, as a share of the costs incurred, the reimbursements as a share of gain and incremental taxable value since the inception. So the higher the number, the less return on investment. So West Celtice 2 had a 36.4% share. Center Point was 15.8%. East Post Falls was the highest performing at 1.7%. And I did throw in Expo since we had already done an Expo district, and that is 10.2%. So obviously, East Post Falls, given its location, probably would have been performing well anyway. But as far as Center Point and West Celtice 2, probably not so much. I know the commission had a full agenda at the last workshop, so I'm happy to come back and go over any other details that you guys wanted to talk over, or any particulars within the document that were of interest that you want to dive into. I'm happy to talk with you guys about that. So do you have any questions?
I think, Colin, didn't you indicate that you'd like to maybe have her sit with your committee and do a review of this together with them?
Oh, I'm not sure Olivia needs to be involved in that
Certainly her plan would be, yeah.
initial meeting, but there may be some questions that relate to the assessment that might be appropriate for her to deal with later.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back and help you out. Yes.
Mr. Crosby?
I thought it was an outstanding job. Thank you very much. It was data-driven, it was concise, it addressed the jobs, it addressed the cost-benefit analysis of, are we taking more tax dollars to create lesser benefit or greater benefit? I was truly impressed. The one question I had was with regard to, and I thought it was an excellent section, but I'd like to get more into it, on page 14, having to do with market demand, where you basically talk about the fact that the definitive indication of a need within our community. The section shows how important it is to have some commitment or understanding with future proponents regarding the prices of land which are improved by public improvements funded through urban renewal, in terms of how that tax benefit that they've received is going to translate into competitive land pricing. And I think we've seen that in the interplay between several of our districts where someone comes into the community, looks at alternative sites, and basically has a range of choices, some of which appear to be inflated price-wise, and others which appear to be more realistic. So.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously, since I wrote that section. But I thought it was interesting, and even Tom had noticed it as well, is, typically economies of scale play a role when you're dealing with larger parcels versus the smaller parcels, and it kind of had the opposite effect in some of the districts, so it was interesting. So, yes, a good point. And probably should be addressed.
Have you, in your experience, encountered any administrative process by which there could be at the time a district is formed, let's say another commercial property or industrially zoned property, that the aggregate benefit of the tax increment provided to the proponent would be somehow factored into his projected future pricing of the property. Have you encountered that in any other work that you've done for a municipality? I mean, it gets into a very gray area about personal property rights and governmental oversight and that sort of thing.
Right, good point. I have not personally been at the table at the time of a district opening, so no, I have not in my experience. However, it's, I think, worth the proponents to look at, definitely, to understand that net cumulative benefit in the end, the long-term benefit for the community as well as for them.
Sure, and ultimately, I mean, if the proponent takes the tax increment, creates the public improvements, and then decides, for many reasons, not to sell the property at a competitive price, the community loses in that they have created a district with a specific use in mind and a specific allocation of taxpayer dollars that's not fulfilling its promise because it's not being competitively priced. So,
Right.
I thought that was an excellent section you wrote.
Thank you. And I also thought that it was limiting for, let's say, manufacturers to go into a 5-acre parcel boxed in when a lot of manufacturers need a lot more space, or so it's coupled not only with the pricing but also the limitations within the land itself.
The plats.
The plats, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Very good questions, thank you. Any other questions for Olivia at this time? I just want to echo what Len said, and I think others have, how much we appreciate the work that you've done on this. To be honest with you, I don't think we were totally sure what we were to end up with. We kind of thought we knew what we were looking for, and in my mind, this is exactly, and then some, what we were expecting. And
Well, good.
it's going to be very helpful to us down the road as we make strategic plans for the future and for other districts and for existing districts. So,
Well, thank you.
Thank you
I really
very
enjoyed
much.
it. Thank you.
okay, new business. Director Lean?
Yes, Chairman, we have our semi-annual reimbursement payments to process. Those checks include the following. We will be sending out checks for 4 proponent developers, 4 districts. The first one would be $418,210.55 for Point Partners, LLC. That is in the Center Point District. The second one is $186,085.56 for Copper Basin Construction in the Tullamore area of the East Post Falls District. There's $35,829.99 for Whitewater Creek Incorporated, and that's for the Tullamore Commons 2. And then there's $51,583.06 for Greenstone Corporation in the West Southeast District. Chairman Baltzell, a motion with a roll call vote would be in order to approve these proponent payments and the stated amounts and the transfer of a total of $691,709.16 to the INB checking account for that purpose.
Okay, I would entertain that motion.
I make the motion that we approve the payments to proponents in those 4 districts as set forth in Director Lean's memos.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jamie, second. Roll call vote, please. First, is there any other discussion before we head that direction? I don't think there is, but go ahead for roll call.
Commissioner Malzahn,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Carstensen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
and Baltzell.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Now it's, we need to go into executive session under Idaho Code Section 74-206, 1F, to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated. I would entertain that motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to enter executive session for the following purposes pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-2061F, legal counsel on pending or imminent likely litigation, and further that no final action or making of any final decision shall be made in the executive session, and that the executive session shall last no longer than 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Baltzell,
Aye.
Carstensen,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Malzahn,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Coles. Thank you.
Battle? Okay,
Yes.
motion carried. We'll now move into executive session until 8:55. Okay, it's time to move back into regular session from executive session. We're a couple of minutes early, but we should move on with our program this morning. And I'd like to request a motion from the executive session.
You bet. I'd like to make a motion to add settlement of Kootenai County case number 15-1385, also known as Post Falls Urban Renewal versus Downey Enterprises, to the agenda for good faith reason, that a final decision is needed on a matter that was authorized to be discussed in executive session.
Okay.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Any other questions? Move forward with a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And one abstention, that be Jerry Paulsell. Okay, now that we have that on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to take action on the discussion in the executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve settlement in Kootenai County case number 15-1385, also known as Post Falls Urban Renewal Agency versus Downey Enterprises et al., for a total amount of $225,420. This amount includes $161,985 that has already been deposited in the trust account of counsel for Downey Enterprises, leaving a net amount to be paid by the agency of $63,435. The payment is required to finalize the last acquisition of property necessitated by the Greensferry Overpass project. My motion also includes authorization for the officers, staff, and counsel for the agency to execute all corresponding settlement documents.
Second the
Thank you.
motion.
Got a second? Roll call vote, please.
Davis,
Aye.
Maltzahn,
Aye.
Coles,
Aye.
Crosby,
Aye.
Carstensen,
Aye.
and Baltzell.
Abstain? Excuse me, my hearing aids were talking back to me. Okay, very good. Moving on to staff report and updates. Anything additional, Director Lean?
Yes, I have one item. Just for the record, we will be processing a draw on the Washington Trust loan in the amount of $82,141 for the Greensferry project expenses, including legal fees, appraisal fee on the Downey property, and the approved settlement amount on the Downey issue.
What was the amount of the draw again?
$82,141.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? Commissioner comments at this time?
Just have a question on that follow-up for the striping at Greensferry and Southeast. Is that going to come out of where? Does that need to be a change order, or what are we looking at?
No, Commissioner, the striping is part of the project scope and cost. They will need to do some temporary striping at this time, and with the idea that they would do the permanent striping at a later date when the temperature is up and everything is dry. It would be the striping that we need to have done right away. It would be more of a temporary fix, but that work is in the original scope. And I have, the email that I sent to Wadsworth and all the pictures and comments and the page out of the, I've got a 3-inch thick plan set this big of every piece of paper for the whole project, all of the technical design aspects, including the page that shows all of the striping in that specific intersection. And from there, I took the pictures and I highlighted the areas that were not, that there is no striping. We need this done.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, that is part of the original contract price, and there shouldn't be any additional cost?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? No other commissioner comments? Okay, Chairman comments? I don't have anything new to say this month. Just appreciate all of the work that everybody does, especially our staff and our legal and our folks back there taking care of us on the programming, and just appreciate that. I think this is going to be an exciting year to wrap up a whole bunch of things with Greensferry and Spencer Street and the Highway 41 trail, and watching as things develop out on the west end of Post Falls. I think is going to make for an exciting year and a very successful year for urban renewal for the community. So, any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.